Naples, 1969. A hot September afternoon. Picture this. A small ferry crossing the water toward Capri, packed with tourists and locals. A young Italian sailor is working the deck of the ship. His father, his grandfather, their fathers, their grandfathers. For 350 years, the whole family has been at sea. Then he turns his head, and he sees her. She's on holiday with her family, like something out of a fairy tale. The girl's eyes are wandering too, and she sees him. Their eyes lock, and the story starts right there. 56 years after that one glance, they own a $44 billion fortune. Everyone knows the husband, but the wife, that Swiss girl, nobody knows her. And here's the wild part. Most people have never heard her name. She gives no interviews to anyone. No social media, nothing. She built one of the biggest shipping empires on the planet. From that ferry. From a single glance. How? Come with me. Let me tell you. Now, I've covered a lot of billionaires on this channel. Tech guys, oil magnates, real estate kings. But this woman? She might be the most invisible billionaire I've ever come across. And trust me, that's saying something. Her name is Raffaella, Swiss. Grew up comfortable, not rich. Her family was educated, respectable, quietly proud. She was raised to be a proper lady. By the standards of the era, marry well, live a quiet, modest life. Raise your children. That holiday, that glance, was about to shake all of that up. The sailor's name was Gianluigi Aponte. From Sorrento, Italy. Dirt poor family. Big dreams. Look at the Aponte name. They'd been sailors since 1675. 350 years. Boats, ships, saltwater, generation after generation. So imagine a wealthy Swiss girl and a broke Italian sailor. Different worlds, different languages, different everything. Of course, her family said no at first. They couldn't picture their daughter with him. Different world, different life, everything was different. But Raffaella didn't listen. She saw in him what nobody else saw, how big his dreams were, and that he was the man who could actually chase them. You have to understand what 1969 meant for a woman, especially in business. Very few women ran companies, almost none in shipping. The industry was a men's playground. Meeting rooms full of cigar smoke, handshake deals, my word is my bond talk. A woman? Just the wife next to you. They got married anyway. Quiet ceremony, no dowry, no family blessing. Just the two of them, and a dream about ships. Gianluigi had one obsession: shipping, cargo, moving stuff across oceans. He'd worked ferries, he knew the game. But dreams don't buy ships. Ships were expensive, really expensive. The dreams were huge, but so was the amount of money they didn't have. So Raffaella sat down and did something no husband expected in 1970. She started running the numbers. Loans, interest, cash flow, fuel costs, port fees. She wasn't just the wife. She was the finance department. Gianluigi ran the seaside. She ran the money side. Two halves of the same brain. And it worked. They got a loan. $200,000. Massive for a young couple with nothing. Terrifying. $200,000 in 1970. Adjusted for today, that's over $1.5 million on a used ship with no safety net. Yeah, that's either courage or insanity. Probably both. With that loan, they bought one ship. Old, used, Nothing fancy. They named it after their first daughter, Patricia.
Everyone who looked at Patricia saw a ship. They saw the gamble they were rolling with fate. She was everything to them, their dreams, their hopes.
They named their company Mediterranean Shipping Company, MSC for short. Boring name for a wild dream. Nobody noticed. Nobody cared. Just another small Italian shipping outfit out of Naples. The big boys ignored them completely.
And Rafaela was setting up her own game while nobody was watching. You don't need to be famous. You don't need to hit the headlines, but you need to be everywhere.
One ship became 2. 2 became 5. 5 became 10. Old ships, cheap ships, nobody wanted them. She wanted them.
By the late 70s, MSC was moving cargo across the Mediterranean. The numbers were talking. The numbers were working. Nothing more exciting was happening.
Then came the 80s. The world changed. Containers changed shipping forever. Big boxes, standard sizes, fast loading.
Most shipping firms didn't like it. It wasn't even clear yet what containers really were. It needed investment. It needed effort. Big risk. Their heads couldn't wrap around it.
The Apontes went all in. Rafaela ran the numbers again. Containers meant scale. Scale meant power. They bought bigger ships, then bigger, then bigger. Every extra container was more money. Every route was a new city. And here's the clever part. They pulled Africa into their playing field. While most firms didn't care about the continent, they built new routes right through it. African economies were growing. Container demand was exploding there. And when the boom came, MSC was already the biggest name in every port. Meanwhile, in Denmark, there was Maersk, the absolute king of shipping, founded in 1904. For decades, Maersk was untouchable. Every port, every ocean, their blue containers were everywhere, symbol of global power. Beating Maersk? Insane idea, like a family bakery going after Nestle. So Maersk didn't even take MSC seriously. Would they end up being wrong about that? Especially not Rafaela. A woman in shipping? Come on, this was the 80s. The industry was pure testosterone, cigars and handshakes. Look, I've told stories of billionaires fighting banks, fighting governments, fighting competitors, but fighting an entire industry that doesn't believe you even belong there? That's a different kind of war. And Rafaela fought it quietly. She'd walk into meetings, and men would ask when her husband was coming. She'd smile, take her seat, start talking. By the time she was done, they knew. This wasn't the wife. This was the operator, the one who signs the checks. Male CEOs at industry conferences would shake Gianluigi's hand and completely skip her. Right there, in front of everyone. Like she was invisible. She never broke her ladylike calm. She sat. She smiled. She talked. She played her game. For years, she watched newcomers arrive. She watched empty chairs. She watched the losers walk away. Rafaela made a choice early on. She would never give interviews, never appear in magazines, no red carpets, no paparazzi-filled cocktails, no parties. Think Elon Musk, but the exact opposite. No tweets, no drama, no public face at all. Just ships, just work. Journalists wouldn't stop. They tried constantly. Office calls, letters, invitations. But all they ever got back was absolute silence. Gianluigi did the public relations, handshakes with presidents, photos at ports, the face of MSC. She was the brain behind him. That's the deal they had. He's the face, she's the engine. And the engine never needed applause. But behind closed doors, every big decision passed through her. Every acquisition, every loan, every risk. She had the final word. By the 90s, MSC had over 100 ships. By 2000, over 200. They were growing so fast, the world couldn't keep up. Then 2003 came around. Rafaela wanted to enter cruises. Moving cargo wasn't enough anymore. She wanted to be on every side of the sea. Cargo shipping and cruise ships? Totally different worlds. Different customers. Except for the ship floating on water, everything is different. MSC Cruises was born. The first ships were bought. The foundation was laid. Copies of Norwegian and Carnival, but cheaper. Nothing special. Then, in 2006, something hit that shook the company. A famous French actor was on their new ship, MSC Musica. Something happened on board. Big scandal, all over French media. MSC's clean brand, suddenly not so clean. Reporters everywhere. Any normal company panics, fires people, gives statements. Rafaela did something crazy. Nothing. Absolute silence. Kept building. Then 2008, the financial crisis hit. Global trade collapsed. Shipping got destroyed. Companies were going bankrupt everywhere. Container rates dropped by 70%. Ships worth millions were suddenly seen as piles of scrap iron. Ports sat empty. Maersk started layoffs as their way to survive. Cut fleets, fought to survive. Every big shipping company did the same. Except MSC. While the industry hid, Rafaela and Gianluigi did the opposite. They looked at themselves. They looked at the numbers. And they started buying ships, started making deals. They swept things up from the very bottom. Sounds insane, right? Buying ships during the worst shipping crisis in decades? Everyone just watched what they were doing, like watching TV. But Rafaela had more than emotion. She had numbers, she had data. And the data wasn't lying. Ships were selling at scrap value. Not buying would have been crazy, right? Man, I wish I had bought one back then. Would have named it James too. Buy low. That was the game. And they were the only ones playing it. When the storm passed, they'd own everything. By 2015, MSC had over 500 ships, tons of them moving cargo around the planet. At some ports, almost every ship you saw was hers. But Maersk was still number one. Bigger, older, more famous. The gap was closing, but the crown belonged to Denmark. All right, so here's where the story shifts. Everything I told you so far was the slow build, decades of patience, decades of silence. But what comes next? This is where it all explodes. Stay with me. Then came COVID. 2020. The world shut down. But guess what didn't stop? Amazon packages, groceries, medical supplies, and almost everything you order online has to arrive on a ship. Shipping wasn't just alive during COVID. It was king. Container rates exploded. What cost $2,000 pre-COVID was now $20,000, 10 times, overnight. And MSC had 500 ships. All those cheap ships she bought during the last crisis, now printing cash. Rafaela's 2008 bet had paid off. The ships were always going to make money, sure, but nobody could have predicted this. And then, January 2022. The moment. The one nobody in shipping thought would ever come. MSC overtook Maersk. In one measure, total container capacity, MSC became number one in the world. 52 years after they took a loan and named a ship after their daughter. From zero to the summit. They were now standing on top of Everest. The Danish giant that dominated for over a century, dethroned by the Italian sailor and his Swiss wife. And Rafaela? Total silence. Not one interview, not one victory statement. She didn't need to say a word. The numbers spoke. Around 20% of all container traffic on Earth was moving on MSC ships. Think about your last 5 purchases, or how you're watching me right now. Phone, computer, television. there's a real chance at least one of them rode on an MSC ship. 20% of everything the world trades in a box. The empire built by a quiet Swiss girl and a broke Italian sailor. But Raffaella wanted to be in even more places. Don't forget, in life, we're running a marathon, not a sprint. French logistics giant Bolloré. MSC bought Bolloré's African logistics arm. $6 billion in cash, one check. Overnight, MSC dominated African trade routes.
Then came the big one. Panama. The BlackRock deal. 2 Panama Canal ports. Control over one of the most important waterways on Earth.
MSC teamed up with BlackRock, the biggest asset manager in the world, to grab those ports from a Hong Kong firm.
This wasn't just business. This was geopolitics. Panama Canal is where American, Chinese, and European trade meet. Now, MSC controls entry points.
The little Italian shipping company from Naples is now sitting at a table where governments have to pay attention. Isn't that the real peak? Not of wealth, but of the work itself.
So, what does $44 billion look like on Raffaella's personal side? Let me tell you, if you'll allow me. The yacht, it's called Amo. $35 million of pure luxury, named after the Italian word for love.
2 Falcon private jets. When you're moving 1 in 5 container packages on Earth, commercial flights just don't work.
An island, private jets, a yacht named Love. Most billionaires would stop here, post it on Instagram, throw a party, call it a legacy. Not her. She went back to work every single time. That's what separates the rich from the empire builders.
And an island, Ocean Cay, in the Bahamas, bought and reshaped by MSC, their own private paradise for the cruise line.
But here's the wildest detail. There's a new luxury cruise line called Explora, Raffaella's personal project. And you start wondering, when does a person actually stop?
She personally picks every single piece of art on those ships, examining each one, imagining each one, every painting, every sculpture, every detail.
This is a $44 billion woman with a spreadsheet mind, and she's picking watercolors for hallways. If you like the story of DeJoria, the guy who slept in his car and built a $3.6 billion empire, you're gonna love the rest of this.
Because Raffaella's real move, the one nobody outside shipping saw, happened in April 2026.
She and Gianluigi transferred control of the empire to their children. The next generation of Apontes now runs MSC.
This wasn't retirement. This was the plan from day one. 56 years of building for this exact handoff. No drama, no public fight. Most people think empires are built with money. Raffaella proved they're built with patience. 56 years of patience.
And silence. In a world screaming for attention, she chose silence. And silence paid her $44 billion.
The Apontes have been sailors since 1675. 350 years of family boats. Now, they're the biggest in the world. The Aponte family. 3.5 centuries of sea experience. Who could have predicted this day would come? An Aponte reign over the sea itself. So back to that ferry. 1969. Naples to Capri. Hot afternoon, small boat crossing blue water. A young sailor working the deck. No idea what's coming. A Swiss girl on holiday. She had no idea about any of it either. Just a normal ride. That ferry cost them a few coins each. 56 years later, that ride was worth $44 billion each. Compound interest on a single moment. Raffaella never stood on a stage, never wrote a book, never taught a masterclass. She just built, silently, relentlessly, for half a century.
20% of world container traffic. 1 in every 5 boxes crossing an ocean. Yours, mine, everyone's. Maybe you're waiting on a package right now. We went back to the past. We came forward to today. We felt the wind on that deck, even the humid air on our skin.
Rome wasn't built in a day, and it didn't fall in a day either. That's how empires are built, over long stretches of time. And at the head of them, there are people quietly taking the right steps.
That's Raffaella Aponte, the richest woman most of the world has never heard of, and she probably prefers it that way. The empire now belongs to the next Apontes. The sailors will keep sailing. 350 years and counting. $44 billion. No headlines, no handshakes, no noise. Just work. That's the whole story. I'm James. Thank you all for watching. Who do you want the next story to be about? What parts did you like? Let's talk in the comments. I'll be waiting.